Book club is back. It is Wednesday, new comic book day book club. We're back together, White Whale Comics and I, talking indie number ones.
Because Marvel and DC is boring the heck out of me.
Respect that.
Personally,
Respect that.
if you like it, no, not throwing any shade.
I haven't bought a DC book in about a month now, maybe one or two, just to finish out like Last God. It's been
just the ones that we've reviewed on book club the last 3 weeks.
Slowing up. Yeah, I was going to say I've been reading Batman Black and White too, yeah. We got a special guest tonight because I've been talking with Justin, obviously, every Tuesday. But this morning he saw my post and he said, oh, I'm going to try these books. Are they any good? And I said, hey, you're welcome to come on the show and join us. And he was like, yeah, let's do this. So I got Justin from KnowGood Comics now 2 days in a row.
I was just going to say, it's been a long time, John.
I always really appreciate having a guest on the show because it means I need to carry less of the work from John on my back.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's funny. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. So for those that don't know, if you couldn't tell by the background, we're going to be talking about Shadow Doctor from Aftershocks Comics. And if we got time, hopefully we'll get into a little Hollowheart as well from Vault. I got the ROM cover. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, there's
a really nice Incentive David Mack cover, but I'm overspending money for variants.
Yeah, my LCS, they were like, yeah, it's a 1 in 15 if you want to pay the $15 for it. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to, unless I'm like certain about a book, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So what do you guys want to start with? I mean, this is the thumbnail. Probably want to start with this one.
Jump into that first.
Sure. So Aftershock Comics, this is by Peter Calloway. For those that don't know, this is a somewhat of a true story. Peter is recounting his grandfather's experiences in Chicago, becoming a doctor and not being able to work effectively in the area of Chicago because there were no doctors that would allow there were no hospitals that would allow a black doctor to work. So this is in the 30s in Chicago, and his grandfather had to make ends meet any way he could with his newfound career path, and that involved the mafia. That's kind of the short of it, I suppose.
Yep.
Pretty much.
I was impressed about the back of the book, including some of the background information on his grandfather, including some writings from his grandfather, some pictures of his grandfather, and a little, sort of why I was inspired to write this kind of a thing.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Added a little something. So let's go. Let's hear some scores here right around the board, right off the bat. 3 minutes in. Alec, what did you think of Shadow Doctor?
I enjoyed it. It was definitely an interesting setup. I liked that they didn't do what I complained about so much, which is just try to jam way too much into a first issue. They really let the story breathe a bit. Wasn't the biggest fan of the artwork. Just not really my style. There wasn't anything wrong with it. It just didn't excite me.
Okay.
So I give it like a 7.8.
Okay. What about you, Justin? What were your thoughts on Shadow Doctor?
Yeah, I think I would be putting it around an 8.5 maybe. To Alec's point, I wasn't, the artwork was fine. It wasn't anything special, but I think this is just going to be one of those books. It's just, more focused on the story and really putting together, wherever this goes. I was intrigued initially because the fact that it says it's inspired by a true story. And I actually saw the little intros from the last book, the Scouts Honors.
Right.
How they put the little piece at the end
preview
of there,
page. Yeah.
Yeah. So I that was partially why it intrigued me to dive into it. But I think overall it was an easy read. It was smooth, and as you said, Alec, it didn't seem like anything was too forced. It did seem like it was paced well. So I do think overall this will be something that I will continue to read and see where it goes.
So I think I like this one a little more than you guys. I'd say this would almost make a 9 for me. I'd say like 8 3/4. I don't know. What is that? I don't know that there's no between an 8.5 and a 9.0. There's no
like an 8.8.
Right. Like so I really enjoyed it. I actually really liked the art style. I thought I was really digging the way the art is drawn in this, and I'm going to look forward to getting into some of the certain panels. I like the pacing a ton, which Alec mentioned. The pacing I thought was really effective. The way it jumped in time I thought was really useful. It did not bog it down or make it super confusing, so I appreciated all that.
It wasn't like one of those books that uses time either as a crutch or as like unclearly. Like it was very clear what was happening when they went back and forth, and
Totally.
it didn't slow the story down. I think it was just
3 different time periods that they jump between, so it could have been a bit of a slog it that way. Hello to Ruben Guzman in the chat. Hello to Travis M. And obviously Justin is in the chat, and the link to these guys' channels is down below too. So if you guys are somehow unfamiliar with them, even though I hang out with them pretty regularly, you should still check them out. Andy is here. What is up, Andy? Gonna make a sandwich? It's like second dinner for you. Here you go.
I love second dinner.
No shaming. Comics Kings. Good to see you, Brandon. How's it going? Roscoe is in the chat. How's it going, Lord Roscoe? Let's see here. Some people saying hi to everybody. Looks like Travis is getting his Hollowheart book, so he's going to get that maybe in the mail. Or maybe, I know a lot of people, their LCSs didn't get books because of the horrible winters that everybody's dealing with. So I'm sorry if you missed out on your books so far. Let's see, Chris Barrett is here. How is it going, Chris? I think I said hello to you, but I'm going to say it again. Hello, Comics for Cheap. I hope you're feeling better. James, I hope you're feeling a little better. I know that you've been getting over a cold, getting ready for a big trip. I think you're going to a con here this next weekend. And the Bearded Comic Bro. Hello, hey. I got my Bearded Comic Bro swag on all night.
Repping that merch.
Nice.
Got my mint-colored shirt here. So let's get into this one a little bit. I was going to show off the first page here because they do a kind of fun I guess if you want to call it a fourth time frame, they jump into a little parable here, a little look at, sorry, Chet, if you're watching me hold my book up a little rough, a little story at the beginning here about, I guess they call it something of a little fable. He says a Cherokee saying, the infant is unaware it has been eaten by a wolf. And then they kind of reference this a few times in the story. And then they dive into that in that same moment a car goes by, and that's where our characters are having a conversation. But for me, I dug I like the lighting a bunch. I like the way they use shadow, and like the kid's face is just fantastic. Like I was shocked to hear you guys say you didn't like the art as much.
I think it was more stylistically for me. Some of the like faces and stuff just kind of looked weird.
Okay.
I mean, it serviced the story very well. Like it told the story very clearly, which I appreciate. So, I'm always saying that just because you can draw pretty doesn't mean you can draw comics well.
Right.
I'd rather have someone I still rather read this book that tells the story well with the art than read something that just looks nice, but you can't figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I will say though, and I don't know if this is because it's based on true events, but this had a very strong feeling of Boardwalk Empire to me. Because I'm pretty sure there was a scene in that show with the log. They had the guy with half of a face in Boardwalk Empire.
The log.
Like when they used the tree across the road to get the caravan of booze to stop so they could ambush them.
And I will say I've never watched Boardwalk Empire, so that would have gone right over my head.
Yeah.
And one of the characters is like a sharpshooter, and he has half of a face, so he's got like a fake face on.
Isn't that what's his name? Michael Shannon?
Michael Shannon's in it. He's not that character.
Okay.
Okay. I think he's in it, right? Yeah, totally.
I thought he was, yeah.
And obviously Scarface, Al Capone is in it. Spoilers for the end of this book, but it's about exactly this time period, except in New York.
So it almost
almost feels like this is like a side story of Boardwalk Empire to me. And I don't know if that's intentional or, like I said, if these were actually true events that Boardwalk Empire used as,
inspiration for there.
Yeah. So I don't know, but it just felt very much like that to me.
But that would obviously drain the enjoyment in some way to feel like I've read this or seen this before.
Right. And Boardwalk Empire is a tremendously good show. First season is okay, but the second season is like gangbusters good. And then it's a little inconsistent throughout, but overall, really great show. Definitely highly recommend. Especially if you like this type of story, which is exactly like a Boardwalk Empire episode.
Brandon says, John, now's a good time to put your books away because Chet's here. I'm sorry, Chet. This is the show where I will be holding and opening my books and holding things up. I'm sorry, but they're not Giant Size X-Men #1 or anything. But I'm sorry, Chet. This is a show that's going to give you some palpitations. So, like, Brandon, what were some of the things? Brandon. Justin, what were some of the things that you really liked in this issue?
I like that it had these flashback moments. Well, one right off the bat, I guess, and again, because I was kind of reading that preview opening, like I read it twice since we read the first two Scout's Honors. Just kind of not expecting this huge gunfight to happen right off the bat, which I thought was pretty wild. And then to just kind of see his thought process here and seeing what he's going through, and that he was saying he never like really believed in God up until this moment was like a time that kind of woke him up to kind of start praying and things like that. And then just like these kind of mid, I guess, flash forwards or however I know we learned that it's being told as he's an older guy now, but to flash back to the 1930s and just seeing some of the language that's used and some of the settings of him getting turned down and how people are saying don't take it personal, nothing personal, but we can't give you this loan when obviously it's the color of his skin that's raising the they called it the policy, I think, in the one panel talking about the hospital, how he wasn't even allowed to like wait in the waiting room. So that was there's definitely some heavy language here and some heavy thoughts or situations that obviously happened at that time very commonly, and definitely was eye-opening to kind of see a lot of this stuff. But overall, I think it flowed really well with just some of the flashbacks and reintroducing the grandpa or him as an older fellow and talking to his son now.
So the three time periods are like him as a younger man before he goes to med school, him in his deathbed, you could argue, like speaking to his son, who is our writer's father, and then him out of medical school, unable to find work, and turning to mafia friends from his younger days for assistance.
Right.
And I think, it would be easy to cut out the current timeline of him in his deathbed because it seems like, well, you don't need that to tell the story. But at the same time, it allows you to do what arguably the best comic book of all time did, which is Mouse, which is not only give you a narrator that you can see and hear speak, but give you a narrator that can give you more perspective on what the story is beyond what he's saying, because he's being kind of almost interviewed by a relative. Mm-hmm. So you have that ability to have this back and forth, this conversation about the events in the comic book, which if they utilize it correctly, could be a really powerful tool, as it was in Mouse.
Yeah, for those that don't know Mouse, that's a great reference point for this. It's what is it? 3 graphic novels, right? I think.
I got it. It's under a bunch of stuff.
That cover an experience during World War II of a Jewish family and what they went through, and it's done through a perspective of having the Jews being drawn as mice, and the Nazis are drawn as cats. And there's this fun kind of anthropomorphic element going on there that's kind of wild. And then it's being written and drawn by the son, right?
Yeah.
Talking to his father.
Yeah.
So there's like this like portion in the present, and then they're always flashing back to what the father who experienced the concentration camps, what his experience was like leading up to and then through the war and then afterwards. But powerful.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, it's all black and
think-
white. I want to say.
I think still the only comic to win a Pulitzer, I believe.
And my mom has been doing book clubs with her little lady friends forever, and it's the only graphic novel that they've ever done for book club, for their little book club, and I can do it.
It does cross the line to
Art Spiegelman
to literature. Yes, but yes, Art Spiegelman also created Garbage Pail Kids, possibly his greatest contribution to the art world.
Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, above House.
I thought you meant Garbage Pail Kids. Figured. What is up, Mark the Cuddy Sark? Okay, so then what are some of the things that we didn't like as much? What were some of the things that were off-putting for you, Alec, as far as this issue?
Like I said, I wasn't super fan of the style of the art. It also just never really grabbed me, and that might be because I was, like I said, from the beginning, thinking, oh, this is just like Boardwalk Empire, and trying to kind of disassociate it from that. And I guess that's no real fault of the creators, but it never really kind of drew me in the way I think it probably sounded like it drew you in, because it felt a little bit like a story I'd seen before.
Gotcha. So the predictability of it, or at least the I've seen this before kind of stuff.
Yeah, like the big reveal at the end is that he ends up going to this hotel who at first the doorman won't let him in, but then
we have a villain reveal at the end.
A villain reveal. But it the guy with half a face sees him and lets him in, and it turns out he's going to speak to Scarface, Al Capone, to ask for help or a job or whatever. So that wasn't really that much of a surprise to me either, because I knew the connection between the Italians and the Irish who were running this whiskey, and they're kind of having this feud at the time. So I mean, it was good. It just it felt like something I'd seen before, so that's why I didn't love it, I guess.
And what about you, Justin? What were some of the things that you didn't like as much?
I don't think there was anything that I can say that really stood out that I would say I didn't like. I really thought the story as a whole was fine. I think if anything, I guess maybe it's just I was expecting a little more, or and partially because I read a little bit extra about this issue before getting into this issue. So I mean, it quite literally took you up to the steps of meeting Scarface, and that's all we got. And I don't know. I guess my expectations were to get a little bit more than that.
Sure.
But other than that, I mean, there really wasn't anything. I had no problem really with any of it.
So it's funny, we talked about Radiant Black last week, which we both said we kind of enjoyed and liked, but we had a lot of kind of criticisms about it in between things that we liked. I don't really have anything to criticize this book. Not as many nitpicky things to say well, I think if you'd done this way or this way. It was a solid book. It just
didn't get its hooks in you.
Yeah, I guess not. I don't know.
So the opening sequence of the book for people tuning in, it involves a group of liquor runners who are driving the trucks with the whiskey over state lines. And our main character, Nathaniel, is driving one of the trucks, the Shadow Doctor.
Yeah. Chet was asking the name of the book.
Oh, sorry, Chet. And he's driving, as a young man, he's driving one of these trucks. And they come to a sawed-off tree, the log that's in the road, and of course it's a double cross, and then a gunfight breaks out between the Italians and the Irish who are fighting over the whiskey. And our main character, Nathaniel, is hiding from all the gunfire and is discovered under the car by this gangster with the mask, the half-faced mask guy, which I don't know that we ever got his name.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think we did.
See. Maddie. Sorry, it's Maddie. Because when he sees him later, he does call him by that. So then we jump to him in a hospital bed, and he's being interviewed by his son for just a little bit, and then we're back in another hospital in 1931, and we're seeing Nathaniel, who has graduated from medical school, being unable to even enter the hospital. He's like sitting outside smoking a cigarette. He won't be allowed in, and he comes to find out they can't hire him at this because it's a white hospital, and they can't hire him at all in the city because there are no black hospitals anymore. They closed the only black hospital in Chicago. And he tried. I love this sequence right here. This is the first one I really wanted to dive into, where he's going to try to find solutions by talking to other hospitals, talking to banks about getting a loan to start his own private medical practice. And he goes through all these phases of all these people he's talking to. And he says, I found out it wasn't, firstly, the doctor says, it's not personal. I just can't hire you. And then he says, I also found out it wasn't personal at the Citizens Bank of Chicago, when without any hospitals that would hire me, I tried to get a loan to open my own practice. Nor was it personal at the Bank of Great Lakes or at Northwestern Trust and Bank. It wasn't personal. No, God, no, not personal. It was only the color of my skin. I really like the way they lay that out. His expressions across the bottom slowly changing, and yet his posture and the way he's sitting with each of the gentlemen. I love the layout there. I really dug that. Let's see. Did I miss some people in the chat? I feel uncultured because I have not read anything else. Super. What is the book title there? Sorry. Got you on that one. I can put up a little banner on that. Sorry. What did you like that? What did you think of the layouts of that sequence?
Yeah, I thought it was very. I mean, seeing like his kind of sarcasm come out, and obviously frustration, and just dealing with a lot of this stuff. Yeah, it's a heavy scene. It's a heavy, set of panels, I think.
I'll type this in here.
I shared my screen with a picture of the guy from Boardwalk Empire I'm talking about.
Save this and post that there, and then there you go. Gotcha. Yeah, I do remember seeing images of that. It's like a ceramic thing he's wearing.
Yeah, it has like a face painted on it to make him look like he's got a face.
It was a common ailment that people.
Well, it was from an injury from the war.
Gotcha. So this is post World War II or one.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's during Prohibition, so it must have been post World War I.
Sorry, what am I doing here? I'm doing that. Gotcha. Hey, Borinkin Comics, how you doing, sir? Thank you very much. And then the next bit, my favorite panels are like immediately after that, when he's basically walking the street on his way to go to meet with the gangsters, and he's doing his little like Bruce Wayne year one walk through the city kind of thing. Yeah. But the next page, when there's like no dialogue.
Oh yeah,
and it's just him.
Yeah, that's a good moment.
Oh my gosh, these like what is it, 6 panels, and he basically stumbles across a pair of homeless kids who have nothing, and obviously he doesn't have very much either, and he sees them, and the impact on him trying to come up with a solution. He's got a lot of things that those 2 kids in a box don't have. But at the same time, he's stuck in a similar that they are. Really powerful moment. I mean, just a great little moment that I could easily see a publisher saying, "You don't need these pages. Let's have another gunfight." But like, it's just heartbreaking and really cool. And then it clearly defines the decision he's about to make, which is to go to the hotel where Capone is, and then he bumps into that buddy of his on his way up to the because he can't get into that hotel either. Can't get in there either.
Right. I like when a book can do that they can break, or that there are these sections or panels that it's no words, and can do it several times, because we get that in the beginning too, when there was a gunfight essentially, but just being able to capture that entire moment, and then again here, obviously a lot of emotion too within these panels. I like when a book can do that, and then still go back to obviously dialogue and balance well.
Totally. And I definitely was not expecting it. And so it really just slapped me in the face when I turned to those pages. Alec is kind of quiet tonight. He's like, I don't really have it.
I'm just kind of reflecting on it.
Okay. And then, of course, they go up into the hotel. The only way he can get into the hotel is because his buddy, the guy he knew in the rum running days, Matt, brings him in and says, "No, this guy's totally allowed to come in." Brings him in, takes him up in the elevator.
But even when he comes out and says, "No, he's a buddy of mine, I could bring him in," the doorman is still like, "You can't."
No way. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the only other dark face he sees the whole way is the little kid who's running the elevator when they go up.
Yeah,
the little bellhop boy. And then they go in, and then there's the Capone villain reveal at the end here on page 1 or page whatever the last. Which I when I got there, I was like, oh, what is Alec going to say about the villain reveal?
Well, to me, I didn't see it as a villain reveal, right? Because because Al Capone is, yes, he was a gangster, and yes, he was a criminal, but especially to this character, he's not the villain of the story, at least not yet, because he's going to him for help. So he is almost in a way the hero, because he's going to, I assume, employ the main character, but then probably send him down a dark road. So eventually he will become sort of the villain, but it wasn't like, here is your nemesis for the next issue that you're going to have to fight.
Right. Yeah. Is that how you took it too, Justin?
Yeah. I was just thinking before, I wanted to ask if you guys noticed that they never really covered how he got out of that whole lifestyle in the beginning, right? Or they never really...
The time period between him as the driver and him getting his medical degree is kind of just washed over, right?
Yeah, I kind of took it to mean like his whole crew got wiped out except for him, because he got saved by the half-faced man, and then he just kind of like went about his life and got his education and didn't try to like get back in with a new crew.
Right.
Or maybe like that was the moment where he said, "Oh, geez, this is not for me. This life's not for me because this is more dangerous than it's worth, and I want to help people, not hurt people."
Well, and for me, like it all came back to the little Cherokee saying at the beginning of the infant not knowing that it's being eaten by the wolf, that it's been eaten by the wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to figure out, like, in that bizarre saying, which I still can't wrap my head fully around, like, who's the wolf and who's the infant, right? In this story, are we to believe that Nathaniel, the young doctor, is the infant, and he just doesn't? And then what is devouring him? Is it his own desire to
right? Or does it turn out that he's the wolf?
Or is Capone the wolf, or is it some societal element that we're not privy to yet?
Or is the main character the wolf and we just don't see how he is yet?
Yeah.
What do you think, Justin?
I mean, I was initially thinking it was more of that he was the infant, and that this crime mob is essentially the wolf that has taken him in and gonna have him do his dirty work for them. He'll do the dirty work for them, kind of mentality. But it's interesting that you bring up that it could it be the other way around? I haven't really considered that.
Yeah, is it going to turn out that this guy like helps to bring Capone down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because I kind of feel like there's got to be another layer to that idea that it can't simply just be our hero is the infant. I felt like that it was the choices and the path he was going down was the wolf. And his decisions were basically the wolf for him.
Right. I'm still curious why he just is now deciding to, or he's sharing this stuff with his son now, these stories, and we only got to see that little bit in the middle of the book about when he's older now. But kind of why else he's kind of revealing this, and if the story is going to go anywhere else with his son, or is it that, as you guys mentioned earlier, that it's really just that kind of design to be able to tell this story, essentially.
Well, I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, he does say to his son says to him, like, why are you waiting to tell me this now? Like, what difference does it make that because you think you're on your deathbed, you have to tell me now?
Because he had kept parts of the story clearly from him.
Right. So I assume that there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, they wouldn't just put a line in there like that if it wasn't something that's going to pay off later, I would hope.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be, and this father-son relationship would be a part of what's going to happen further.
Did you guys read the letters in the back?
I did.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
What did you think about it?
Just, I mean, it's only the one, right?
It basically shows a fragment of one letter and then a full page from another. I don't know if they're the same letter. It's just 2 pages, but like, yeah. And then it's got the photos and then a little bit of writing from the author of the comic.
Oh yeah, yep. I thought it was cool. I mean, I like the promise to himself in just trying to, do whatever it takes to kind of set these goals that he has in mind and be better, in every way that he can be. It was kind of motivational in a way of just him talking to himself and really trying to give himself that kind of hurrah or that, I guess that motivation.
Sure.
I'm curious what he wrote to his father.
Oh, definitely. Hey, TK, thanks for coming by. Good show earlier with Mo. Thanks for letting me hang in the chat for a bit. Comics Kings, Brandon says, I like the history and background of the story. It makes it unique and something we don't see often. And Gore says, an interesting comic, the discussion is reminding him of Carlos Trio's trilogy, The Spaghetti Brothers, about 4 friends who grow up to become a priest, a cop, a nurse, and a gangster.
Yeah, I don't have a lot more to say about this book.
That's fine. We want to jump over to the other one. That's the fun of this format now.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I will be getting issue 2 of Shadow Doctor. Anybody else? Just as like a finish it out.
Probably not.
Okay.
I will.
Our other book for tonight is Hollow. I keep trying to make sure I'm not saying Hollowheart.
Hollow Wheat.
Right, it's Hollowheart, issue number 1 from Vault, and I got I went with the ROM variant, even though the David Mack one is primo beautiful.
Real nice.
I can totally understand people buying that one, but I decided I didn't know the team behind this well enough, and come on, it's a cool ROM.
Yeah, unusually good piece of art from David Mack.
Yeah. So he doesn't usually, but it's nice that
he kills everything he does.
Hey, Chad, I'm glad we managed to pique your interest on that one. I honestly think it could become a fun thing to maybe even read in a trade. Shadow Doctor might be something to really enjoy.
Yeah.
So let's dive in on Hollowheart. Alec, what is your first early thoughts on this issue?
I really enjoyed it. It's funny because I feel like maybe I would have more nitpicky things to criticize about this book than Shadow Doctor, but I enjoyed it more.
Okay.
It was a story I was more interested in.
Okay. And what would you grade this one?
Probably like an 8.9. Like I wouldn't quite give it a 9 because like that I reserve that for like books that really knock it out of the park, but it was up there. Like I found it intriguing and exciting.
And I know now, Justin, early in the day, I posted my thing and Justin replied and said, did you like that book? Because I don't know that I fully get it. And I was like, give it another shot. Like, read it. And you read it again. So after 2 reads, what are you thinking?
So after 2 reads, I really like the book. And it's actually, I don't even want to count the first read as a read because I was doing it while I was at work. We all do.
We gotta try to like balance everything.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like it was not a good environment to be trying to read that in. But I was on my phone. I was using my cell phone, which everything's just much smaller, obviously. So it was just not a good environment for any of that. But for what I did, like when I jumped back into it again the second time around, there was just so much that I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Like I I don't know if I just skipped pages or I don't know what happened exactly. I was interrupted a couple times during my first time around, so
sure.
It definitely could have happened. I really like the book. I mean, I think I'm going to give it like a 9. I think that the emotional side of things to kind of see this robot essentially who used to not be or who used to be human going through what he's going through and kind of finding this friend or Mateo who's essentially there for him. I think that was one thing I want to mention. I think one thing that I made a mistake of when I first looked at this book, I didn't read the intro or the that little like paragraph in the beginning or whatever. And I usually try not to like read an about the book or the back of the book or anything like that when I'm going into it. And I kind of just let the cover guide my expectations into something just completely different. And obviously you can't let that happen. But my expectations were so far into this, like, cool, this is going to be this futuristic, robots and, sure, I just got off of reading Descender and all this other stuff, but like, I'm like, man, is this going to be like a Tim 23 kind of vibe? Like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, no. And so that was the other thing that I think my expectations going and reading that first time around was almost like I was like looking for that thing. And then with everything else going on, I was like, okay, let me like sit back down and read this for what it really is. And to see that it's way more in depth with the character or the characters that we learn a little bit about. And it piqued my interest, as you were saying, Alec. Like it's really well done in that way. That I'm very curious where it's going to go and kind of what the angles are, especially with like some of the language or the story that's being told in the beginning.
Yeah, there's some interesting layers that I think I want to get into because there's a ton of little things left undone, which I know Alec and I always really enjoy. Hello to Hidden Gem. Sorry, I did not say hi to you when you jumped in here.
I just to touch on something really quick. It is crazy how much, if you have certain expectations for a story, how much that can affect it, even if it's like something you would normally enjoy. If you are expecting one thing and it's something else, you definitely have to, give things a second, third chance, because that can throw off your gauge for what the story is by so much. It's crazy. Like I've certainly done that before.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So I would give this a 9, and I was super pumped. I think even halfway through it, I was texting Alec like, "Make sure you get this book. Yeah. Like, you got to get this book," because for those that need a reference point, it story-wise reminded me a ton of the Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water. As far as there's a character who's being sort of kept in this bizarre facility against their will, and another character who's working at the facility doing maintenance of some sort who seems to have a connection to this character. So the main character, Elle, the one on the cover here, is living inside of a suit. I would give this about a 9. Living inside of a suit that keeps him alive. He looks like mostly like a skull and just like a little bit of matter left. Right. And the suit is keeping him alive.
When he takes the chest plate off, like he still has like a lot of internals and organs and stuff.
Yeah. So at the beginning, it looks like he's trying to escape, and there's this dramatic moment where a character stops him and then intentionally just bangs the crap out of the suit to teach him a lesson, presumably. And then they ask for, hey, we're going to need someone to do maintenance on the suit. And that's where we meet Mateo, who you mentioned, Justin, who is basically the mechanic who's going to work on the suit, and talks to Elle. And even when he realizes Elle doesn't really want to talk, mentions, oh, it's fine, you don't have to talk. And then Elle says, I don't like the sound of my voice. The suit makes a synthetic sound and I don't like it. And so they start a little back and forth of, I can fix that for you. I can do a lot of things with the suit. And then once it gets into the discussion of why are you running away, to gain Elle's trust, he pretends to turn off the surveillance equipment in the space. And then we get to see the guy who beat the crap out of his suit is in the room watching. And so there's this sort of like...
And there's that little interaction there where they say, oh, does he know he didn't really turn it off? He's like, yeah, he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's trying to create it seems like Mateo's trying to create some rapport with Elle in some way. And then we jump away from there. We get a view into Mateo, who is apparently friends with Donnie and has dated Donnie at some point. And the two of them are at a bar, and it seems like Donnie is not very interested in continuing that physical relationship with Mateo, even though Mateo mentions like, hey, maybe you just need made some human contact, somebody to talk to, whatever. And Donnie's not having it, and he bails. And then Mateo later uses an app to hook up with some guy on the side because he does need some he's talking about, basically he was commenting on his own situation where he needs some contact. He's feeling
he's kind of projecting a little bit on this other guy, saying like, "Hey, you need some like human touch. You need like some interaction with a person." Like, that's when he's like, "It was one date. We're not doing that again."
right.
You got to
So we
get
get
a bar.
We get a little bit of Mateo on this date and really just trying to find some connection that he's clearly not having. And then now the stuff I want to get into later, we get back into the facility and we get Mateo working on the suit again for Elle and basically saying, I think I can unhook the tether that's keeping you stuck here. But, we're going to have to be able to like trust each other a little bit in this. And it's hard to know if how much is Mateo telling the truth to Elle and where the truth is happening. There's a ton of questions left unanswered.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into it, Alec. So where do you want to dive in on this one?
So first of all, I thought the way it was written and how the story was told, there was a certain level of like poetry to it. Where it wasn't like the narration wasn't necessarily straightforward with what was happening in the scene.
Yeah.
Which I think is the best use of narration in a comic book because we can see what's happening in the scene. This is my problem with Deceased that I yelled so much about is that like, don't just tell me in narration what I'm already looking at. That's just redundant. Where a lot of times this was kind of telling you something else or like informing the scene a little more.
And just like Shadow Doctor, there's this like metaphor of a sort of child saying or a story about. In this case, it's about a fish tank and the fish being taken out by the owner and dying, and the parents replacing it. And the ideas of why would a parent replace a fish and all these kind of things.
Why would they dump it out in the first place?
Yeah,
right.
One of the really interesting moments for me was. I'm drawing a blank on exactly how.
Wood, thanks for coming by, man. And Greg, clearly we all gave this book a 9, basically. So we're definitely saying pick it up, but we'll get into that a little bit as we go on.
Was that when so they're talking about the tether, which is that the guy in the suit, and they kind of reference that there's more than one of them.
They do, subtly.
That he is not shackled in any way, but he has some sort of tether where if he gets away from the facility, his life support will shut down.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and when he's talking to the guy in the bar who beat up Elle in the first place, he says, I don't think he was trying to escape because he knows about the tether.
Yeah.
So the question is, what was he trying to do?
Yeah, he says he's talking to Dustin. Mateo's talking to Donnie, at the bar, and he says, Elle knows about the tether. He knows if the facility if he ever makes it off the facility, his own life support will shut down and he'll be dead within minutes. And then Donnie says, yeah, I was in the observation room. So what? And Mateo says, well, so these aren't escape attempts then. He's not trying to escape. What's he doing? And then that's when their conversation just falls apart because Donnie's not interested in this.
But so I think throughout this book, there are a lot of those questions where it doesn't just like spell out everything for you. It raises these points of this something that's more complex than what you're seeing is happening, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, even that one bit of he's not necessarily trying to escape. I was thinking, is he trying to escape in that he doesn't want to live, and that's his form of escape, and that he's just trying to actually get out, and then just even though he knows the tether is going to kill him essentially, or the other side, one of the other sides of it is maybe he misses human interaction, and so getting stopped and then getting repaired. I mean, we only met this one repair, Mateo being the repairman. We don't know if there's been others or whatever, but maybe this is his one way of like interacting with humans that he misses. I mean, one of the biggest things that I had to kind of keep reminding myself as I read this was that Elle was human at one point. So he certainly can share the types of feelings that, I mean, like my mind would drift away of thinking he's a robot, but I have to keep like remembering that he does have that human experience and feeling about him. So
yeah, for sure.
You know?
It's not even like an artificial intelligence. It is a human mind and spirit inside this robot shell.
And they do a great job of animating his expressions, right? Giving him just by moving the brow on the pink skull, you get this emotional response.
And I really enjoyed some of the stuff like this, where it's using the panels and they're overlaying each other. So, but you get this extra panel inside. I thought that was a really interesting design choice.
Hello to Z Collects and Kevin from Entropy Comics. You guys are going everywhere together.
I found it really interesting towards the end where Mateo is like, hey, like, I'm going to help you get out of here, but in order to do that, I need more time with you. So I'm going to break you a little bit so that I can come back and repair you later. And then he says, don't worry though, it's not going to hurt. And then you get this whole thing where he's being repaired, where Elle is talking, or basically narrating the fact that he or she had to resist screaming that it hurt so much, and that he passes out from the pain as soon as the guy leaves. Right. So where is that disconnect where the repair person doesn't understand that this is hurting them? Because if he has done this repair on the other creatures that they reference, you think they would have, like, the only reason this character is not screaming is because he's not trying to draw attention to himself.
Yeah, which is, I think, my favorite part of the book is the ways in which Mateo is not shown to be hero or villain, but is walking this kind of fun line in the middle. You know, Mateo could easily be seen as the savior, but he's not, and he could easily be seen as the villain who works in this facility and repairs it. But he seems to be somewhere in the middle for right now, and it's kind of a fun duality he's playing with, because he's clearly the only person who cares at all to even connect with Elle and recognizes truths about Elle that nobody else does. So in that way, observant, right, and empathetic in some way. But then he's also unaware of either unaware or doesn't care about the pain he's causing, and also seems to have his own desires to what he's doing here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I guess, so having said all that, I think my biggest criticism of the book is that I don't understand his motivations, and hopefully they're going to make those clear. But at the same time, like, I wanted more of his interaction with Elle to inform this decision that he makes of why he's going to help Elle escape. Because I feel like they had this one short conversation, and then all of a sudden he's at the bar and he's like, oh yeah, maybe I should help him escape. So I thought, like, maybe, and you know, the problem with a comic book is you're limited to your pages. So you couldn't have 3 or 4 scenes in the middle of this story, because you could have ended the issue with him saying, you know, I'm going to help Elle escape. But then you miss out on this, what I think is a really beautiful ending to this first issue, where, you know, Elle is kind of,
he's the fish in the bowl.
Right. And the bravery he's showing and the determination he's showing by waiting to collapse from the pain of what is happening to him, in order to have the possibility of being able to escape. So, you know, you're kind of screwed if you do, screwed if you don't, to a point. But yeah, I just wanted more of them talking to each other to kind of learn who each other are, I guess.
What about you, Justin? Were there things that you wanted that weren't quite working for you?
Well, I wanted to add on, as you just said, Alec, what was your phrase? Things that you, it's pretty much damned if you do, damned if you don't is what you mentioned. But towards the after bar scene, like right after or in between, I wanted to bring up that story that he talks about, or the narrator talks about, where where does it start? It says, elsewhere, the night a man lay dying, his broken body at bottom of the hill. Yeah, so this guy's basically dying at the bottom of the hill, and he's desperate and alone. and it just talks about how he's been screaming, and he sees this like woman walking by, another hiker, a young woman passes above, and he's screaming his lungs off, and it turns out that she's profoundly deaf, and just that, I don't know what this is like. Is metaphor the right word, or I don't know what the phrase is.
It's an analogy, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like this is the second one, right? We had the fish tank, and now we've got this.
So that just made me think about, like, again, kind of going back to like, does L not want to be alive, and he's in pain? He's in some form of pain and doesn't know how to communicate it, or no one wants to hear him. And now that he's met this Mateo, who is now, from what it seems like, willing to kind of hear him out, it kind of goes to the damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like now he's like being quiet because he's the guy's like, hey, this isn't going to hurt at all, and he doesn't want to like make any scene about it, but it really does hurt. But he's actually now he's being quiet. Like there were just so many little things that tied into that little story that I took from this whole relationship and everything. And I'm confused as heck. So, but I'm just kind of I'm not really asking a question per se. I'm just I think kind of putting this all out there.
But I think the book, to its credit and to kind of what you guys are saying, is it has a ton of open-ended questions, right? There's a ton of things we don't know L's motivation. We know that he is aware of the tether and knows that if he escapes, he'll die. So he's not as trying to escape. What's he trying to do? We don't know. And then what's Mateo's purpose? What is he trying to do by helping L? What is he going to get out of all of this? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a bunch of really great questions that don't rob the story of anything. They just make me want to read more, which I think all of us are admitting that there's something more we want to learn.
Yeah, all the omissions were clearly very intentional. It wasn't like something that just wasn't made clear or left out because the author doesn't know what's happening. Like, they're all little breadcrumbs that the author is putting into the story that are going to lead you down the path. I assume, I mean, at the end of the series, you might be like, well, that guy he didn't know what the hell he was doing. He never answered anything. It was like Lost. But no, I think that all those little questions are left open intentionally. And I think that's what's going to make this series intriguing to me.
Entropy says a metaphorical analogy: screams falling on deaf ears. Right. Gore says this is another interesting book, but he's finding Shadow Doctor may be more interesting or more up his alley as far as what he wants to read. The man trapped in a body of stone. So I will say I want to mention a little bit about the art style, because the art style reminded me of like super early TMNT color comics, like the ones when the TMNT are like fighting in the lab with all the little Krangs, like in those guys' tech suits. So there was definitely panels from this that I was like, wow, the style reminds me a lot of early TMNT. So I could definitely see people being put off by the art style because it seems a little rushed, maybe. I just really dug it. Like it spoke to me, the way they get expressions out of L, and the way they use, like Alec was saying, there's a ton of like fun blank spaces and overlaps that occur. So there's another one where there's like a blank in that overlap. I was really intrigued by the art style, and it kept me involved. I even had to go back through and triple check that the guy he meets in the bar is the same one that is in the observation room and the same one that beats up on L. I just wanted to like look back through it, but I think it was distinct enough that I could see it even in the like sort of quick style of the art.
Yeah, the faces definitely have a uniqueness to them, to their characters.
Totally.
Yeah, I wanted to point out this one or two panels, I guess, here. I know you talked a little bit about the faces and everything, but the eyes that you see here, I feel like you really just feel his sadness or his kind of sorrow in this. I thought it was so well done.
Yeah, and the reflections that are showing in the glass as well.
Yeah, just like a simple like squint of the eyes, it just showed so much in that one bit.
Totally, cool. Absolutely. We're getting a little late on time. Was there anything that we didn't get to that you guys wanted to mention for this issue?
No, I'm much more likely to pick up issue 2 of this than I am of Shadow Doctor myself. But
okay, so you're in on issue 2, Justin?
Yeah, I'm definitely in on issue 2, and I wish I got some of the variants. I didn't. I really like the cover A because it's that close up of him in the helmet, or of L in the helmet. But the David Mack one that you guys were talking about earlier,
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But sometimes those variants, if the book doesn't get hot, like the variant gets cheap and you can get it for a steal later on.
If the book does get hot, it's going to be $150 next week.
There's that, right? Mastodon is in the chat. Thanks, man. He says, I picked that one up today. Thanks for the attention to it. Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't see anybody talking about it, and I think this is the read of the week for me. Like it was the book that I was most impressed with and kind of blown away by. So I am definitely getting issue 2 of this as well. So yeah, I'm all in on this for at least for another issue to see where it's going.
Yep.
Jay, you're in here too. Thanks for coming by, man. Maybe he wants to get together with the robot monster. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely I did get like a Shape of Water vibe from this a little bit, but
yeah,
who knows where they take it? Yeah, there's the David Mack with the big goldfish swimming inside the suit. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great point about Shape of Water, by the way, John.
You can still buy it on eBay pretty cheap right now.
There you go.
Oh, that's true.
Get it.
Yeah, I was just saying what you said before about Shape of Water. It definitely has some of those vibes to it. Now that I'm like thinking about it, but I forgot about that movie.
So we're gonna head out of here. We're gonna wind this down. Again, the channels are all linked down below. So if you want to check in on these guys and subscribe to the other stuff, I hope you do that for sure. Justin has a show coming up on Saturday where he's going to be doing another Comic Collector Origin. Who you got coming up this weekend?
My friend Steve, Hip Hops and Me from Team Nerd Herd. He'll be on the channel this Saturday at 2:00.
Nice.
So yeah, should be a good time.
And Justin's also part of Tag Team Thursday. So tomorrow he's going to be dropping the content along with me and Just a Weekend and Old Wolf and Comic Chop News and Brandon, who was in the chat earlier, Comics Kings. So you got a whole bunch of great content going on from Rod all the way through finishing out with No Good Comics. So if you
taking over.
Yeah, we got a new fun format. We're challenging the YouTube algorithm a little bit with something a little different. So hopefully something that people get into. So hopefully check that out tomorrow. Whitewell Comics, we're back for, from what I hear, D&D is on Sunday.
After a little hiatus, we're back to fighting Strahd.
The Curse of Strahd.
The Curse of Strahd on Sunday on my channel. We are in the thick of it right now.
Yeah.
We're right in Castle Ravenloft and searching for Strahd for the final battle. So now is the literal worst time to jump in as a new watcher, but you got a couple days to catch up on 20-something episodes if you want.
Well, we definitely will happily chat with you in the chat if you're in there. So everybody that comes by hopefully has a good time goofing with us and laughing with us. And then I'm doing a show. Tomorrow night I'm on JP's channel. We're talking about Fables, volumes 8 and 9 of Fables. And then Saturday night I'm doing another Drinks and Movies with the Bearded Comic Bro. And we're talking about great comic book movies that are not DC and Marvel. So we're going to definitely talk about American Splendor. Those of you with HBO better freaking watch American Splendor because I'm for legit going to be talking about that movie a ton. Great movie.
Nice.
And that is it. We're gonna get out of here. You can catch more of Justin and I on Tuesday night. I'll be back on his channel talking about X-Men. So hope to see you guys for some of that. Donnie is right. Vault has been doing some great stuff. Sorry, Donnie, I missed that a little bit. And hey, there it is. I made Bearded watch American Splendor too. So there you go. Yeah.
I never understood this emoji.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, hey, I'm with you. I don't know. Jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
It's jazz hands. It's the jazz hands emoji. All right, everybody. Have a great night, and we will see you back next week on Book Club. I'm sure we'll have some more indies to check out. So
hopefully.